Today's discussion and the presentation will be on financial literacy for students. And for some of you, it might be a bit simplistic, but I'm hoping that most of you will get something out of this presentation. Okay. So what is financial literacy? It is being able to use your knowledge and skills to manage your financial resources effectively for a lifetime of financial well-being. Why would you need financial literacy? Especially students need financial literacy when they leave, let's say, their families. Up until now, your parents probably took care of your finances. And now you have more freedom. And if you start using your personal finances too freely, you may run into some trouble, such as overspending. It's very easy to just use your credit card or debit card and spend too much. You may max your card because you're most likely not keeping your receipts or adding up your receipts and realizing just how much you're spending. Most of you may not have a budget, and that is very important. We will address that in a bit. You may have a car loan, let's say, and realize towards the end of the month that you don't have enough to pay for your car loan, and you may default on your loans. All these things may add to financial trouble. You may not see any way out, and you may even contemplate leaving school. We don't want you to leave school. So who needs to know about financial literacy? All students do, actually everybody does. The financial basics are budgeting, borrowing, and repayment strategies if you do have loans. Budgeting is one of the most important elements, whether you're a student or not. What you need to do is identify your needs or wants. You may have to postpone some of your wants in order to be able to make ends meet when you're in school as a student. Okay, in this column here, you can see what you may have coming in. You may have some grants or scholarships. You may have a work-study job, or perhaps you are a vet and you may have veteran benefits. Your parents may have saved for you for college, and you may have a savings plan. Or you may have your parents also give you an allowance to go to school, and you may have, hopefully, a little bit of income that you earned during the summer. But that may not be quite enough, and you may have to get a loan as well. Okay, these may be your expenses, tuition and fees, books and supplies for sure if you're a student, and then housing. If you're in the dorms, you'll have rent to pay. Transportation, if you have a car, you'll have gas, food, health care perhaps, and you need to have a little allowance also for entertainment. And if you have it in loans, you may have some loan costs also. Looking a little closer to a budget, here you can see that you have income from work, and that could be that you had a summer job, or you may still have a job, a part-time job. This budget here is on a monthly basis, but I encourage you to perhaps build a budget for the entire school year so you have a better idea of how much things are. On this sheet here, you can see where the estimated financial aid credit balance is featured here. You may have that, or you may not, in which case you would have to pay your tuition also. You may have monthly support from your parents and maybe some other income as well. Now your fixed expenses, of course, will vary from person to person, but these are expenses that you can't really change, so you pretty much have to count on having these each month. And then for the variable expenses, you can change those, of course, but you may have to allow enough for groceries unless you plan on eating ramen noodles all week long. And here just shows basically things that you may need. Entertainment, there's $50 there. Those are things you can change, but as a student, you may not be able to go to expensive concerts, let's see, out of town. But it's good to write all that down when you build a budget. What you can do is you can have a budget on there are apps you can use on your phone and have it directly on your phone, so it's readily available. Okay, borrowing is the second element that is very important in financial literacy. What you need to consider is everything else first before you have to resort to loans. We have, in financial aid, we have direct subsidized loans, and these are direct loans that the government allows schools to use. The subsidized loans don't have any interest until you leave school or you graduate. And the unsubsidized loans have affordable interest as well, but it does accrue from the time you receive your loan. Perhaps your parents would like to help you. They may qualify for a PLUS loan, and those loans are better than a private loan in the sense that the interest rate is much lower. But it does accrue from the time you get that loan as well. If you come from another school, you may have some other loans that you might consider consolidating with some loans that you have here as well. Another option, if you don't qualify for federal loans, are private loans. Now those loans, most banks, such as Wells Fargo, credit unions, or other lending firms will also loan to students, but the interest rate is not as attractive as federal loans, and it is not subsidized. So when you get the loan from private bank, you will get interest charged from the very beginning. Also, you may have, when you apply for a private loan, you may have to have a well-established credit record. You may also have to have a cosigner. And most likely, if you need to defer your loan, you might not be able to do that with a private loan, whereas a federal loan allows you to do that. Okay, anytime you have a loan, you should know who your servicer is, and you can look that up online. If you apply for a loan here at the school, we can give you websites to check on your loan, so you can keep in touch with your servicer, and if you need to make arrangements, payment arrangements or repayment arrangements, they can help you do that. Okay. The most important thing to keep in mind is to manage your finances responsibly. You can do that again on your smartphone by using a calendar, so you know when your payments are due, or you can use a regular calendar and check on it, and so you don't fall behind in your obligations and maintain a good credit. Here is how you could write that down wherever, especially the larger expenses, so you don't miss the deadline. Okay, let's move on to some scholarships that we offer. We offer civic grants, institutional scholarships, external scholarships, just to name a few, and I will give some examples here. Civic grants are scholarships that are funded through the Western Wyoming College Foundation. And you can apply for these online, and it needs to be done a few months before the semester starts, because they are in high demand and there's only so much money to give out. One thing to keep in mind is these scholarships are based on, some of them are based on majors, or most of them you have to maintain a certain GPA in order to get the scholarship, and then you also have to maintain that GPA just to keep the scholarship and not lose it. This is an example of a, whoops, I went too fast. That was the, I don't know if I can go back. Okay, so Superior Scholarship, for example, is a scholarship that is for, it's a very good scholarship. It is based on a high GPA and a high ACT, but it also requires a personal letter and letters of recommendation. Okay, here as an example, the reason I put this up here is it shows that you have to have a minimum of 15 credits and a 3.5 GPA to maintain the scholarship, as well as you have to participate in a peer mentor program and must sign a contract to agree to the terms. So in essence, when students think that scholarships are free, they're not really free. There are strings attached to it to keep them. Okay, other scholarships are out-of-state academic, Sweetwater County High School, special ability grant, etc., non-traditional students. So we offer a variety of scholarships. The requirements are, again, it's based on the GPA, on your major in some cases. Some are based on need, some on credit hours, and again, most of them you have to maintain a specific GPA and also meet satisfactory academic progress. For Wyoming high school students, there is another attractive scholarship, and actually it's divided into 4 levels. It's based on GPA and the ACT score, as well as some courses that you took in high school will also determine which level you qualify for. So there's the honors, performance, opportunity, and provisional. External scholarships are a bit different in the sense that they come from, let's say, organizations such as a church or Society of Petroleum Engineers is a big one. These organizations choose a student. You have to apply directly with them, and then they send a check to the school to cover tuition or part of the tuition or whatever your expenses still are that need to be covered. So important to keep in mind is to set up a budget, preferably for your entire semester or school year, and then to make sure that that your expenses don't exceed your revenues, and don't borrow more than needed. It would be tempting to borrow as much as you possibly can, but you have to repay that, so it's not a good idea to borrow too much if you don't have to. And there is a limit. You can't just come back and think that you can borrow more. The limit is based on whether you're a freshman or sophomore. Also, if you have any trouble with your classes, ask for help so you stay in school and complete your program and graduate and have a rewarding career. Okay, do you have any questions?
No questions? Okay, so I'm going to continue.
Okay, let's do that.
Can you pull the website up for me?
Yep.
So really quickly, let's pause the mic. Just going to mic off real quick. All right. So many of you already probably have gone through
This is Jeopardy!
figured out what you have as your awards, right? Some of you may have received refund checks, or right now you're receiving bills for whatever your financial aid didn't cover. And your payment deadline, you've already possibly, if you haven't been paying attention to the payment deadline, you've already missed 2 deadlines and are on to your 3rd deadline. So what we want to make sure that you understand is that you're responsible for your financial aid, for the payments that you owe to the college, and for maintaining those scholarships and getting them the next semester. And you can't make assumptions that just because your award is in your Mustang Web Advisor account that it's going to be the exact same the next semester. And one thing that a lot of students come in spring semester and say, well, you know what, Nicole, you never told me that I needed to maintain a 2.5 GPA for my Sweetwater County high school scholarship. And I will say I've provided the resources on our website for you to be able to look at your account, so you all can go into Web Advisor, you can all see your scholarship awards, and when you look at your account to pay your balance, it will tell you if you're eligible for your scholarship or not. So right now you're all in the clear because it's your first semester. Most of you got through the hoops as far as submitting your high school, final high school transcript, and then you completed possibly your master promissory note and your entrance counseling, so you're eligible for your loans. There are a lot of students who still to this day, right now, have not gone on and accepted their awards or went through the hoops. So when you're getting a bill in the mail, or not in the mail, we don't mail them out, we email them out to you. So it's important to remember that all of the communication is sent through email. So a lot of students may go the entire semester and we're about ready to send you to collections, and you miss the key opportunity of checking your email. And you may have, students may be getting bills that actually have thousands of dollars in financial aid sitting there to pay your bill, but you haven't gone in to visit through your Web Advisor and accept your scholarships. So now is the opportunity for you to ask questions if you don't understand how to navigate through our system and how that works. Some other common errors are that students assume, I got a $3,000 refund check this semester, so I'm going to get another $3,000 next semester. And so those are some of those things that maybe now that you've kind of seen what your account looks like, now's your opportunity to kind of ask us some questions about your aid. Does anybody have any questions? Did everything go smoothly for you? That's awesome. Good. So you're probably one of those, you're the group that, because you have been in this class, a lot of you are athletes, a lot of you we brought in and we intentionally were able to educate you before you came on campus and started classes. So the most important thing, and as we play this Jeopardy game, this will just kind of review concepts. But what you need to do right now is midterms are coming up. Stacy, they're next week, right? Midterm grades are due? Next week? Art? Yes? On Monday? So what I would strongly encourage you to do is get onto your Blackboard, make sure you know what your grades are right now, and make sure that you get on the website. And if you're not quite sure what your athletic scholarship, what the requirements are, what your requirements are for your external scholarships, make sure that you research that right now, because you're at midterm and you still have the opportunity, if you aren't earning the grades that you want, you have the opportunity to bring those grades up and get to where you need to be. A lot of those scholarships that you've received, the majority of them I can say are a 2.5 semester GPA, and so that's above a C average that you've got to be earning for the semester. For your federal aid, if any of you are receiving Pell Grants or student loans, you have to earn a cumulative GPA of 2.0, and you have to complete basically 70% of the courses that you take, so that you enroll in, that you attempt. And so those are some things that students get into trouble with, because at midterm, they go, uh-oh, I am like failing all of my classes. I finally have figured out, okay, I get the college thing, I figured it out. I'm gonna dump a bunch of classes and, get some late start classes and start fresh. Well, we have, with federal aid, we count every single class that you've attempted. And so a lot of students get caught up and they're not able to complete 70% of their courses because they may register for 21 credits to begin with and then end up only completing maybe 11 of those with a 50% completion rate. So it's kind of a bit complicated, and the financial aid process can be a bit intimidating. And so what I guess the message that I want to portray to you today is that don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to come into our front line at Mustang Central and say, hey, this is what's going on with these are my grades. What would happen if I dropped my classes? Make sure you're talking to your advisors. In Mustang Central, we're not advisors, so we don't tell you, yes, you should drop these classes and pick this class up. So it's really a strong communication with the staff members at Mustang Central. Starting at our front line, they can answer 80% of your questions, and then they can escalate you back to someone who maybe, like myself, needs to do a further review of your situation. And so that's the most common mistake, is that students don't ask questions up front, and then they get into big trouble. And then they end up in my office not knowing what to do and how to pay for their second semester of college, but knowing that they do want to return and come back, but they just didn't meet the grades and the maintenance requirements to keep those scholarships and didn't take the time to focus on that in advance. Another common mistake is that the budgeting, like Ann talked about. Some of you did receive refund checks. Those refund checks are not to buy big screen TVs and go shopping and buy yourself a whole new wardrobe. I would strongly encourage you to set up a budget, a very simple budget, and make sure that you have that money in a savings account, because you never know next semester what emergency might arise, or maybe your books cost more than they cost in the past. So I know this is kind of your first semester of having kind of that freedom, and it's nice to be able to have money in your pocket, but sometimes you forget that, there's certain requirements tied to that, or you actually have to pay that back if you took a student loan out. And so that's why we really encourage, and we are more than happy to sit down and help you build a budget. But we don't like to see our students leave with high student loan debt. We're a very affordable institution, and we really feel like if you maximize those scholarships and you create a budget, that you don't need to be taking out the full amount of student loans that the federal government will lend you. So Ann and I, because we see in the end results, and we see those students struggling to pay back those student loans or wishing that they wouldn't have taken out as much in student loans, we are more than willing to sit down and have a conversation with you and help you plan out your academic career. So with that, do you have any other questions before we move into our game? We're going to just spend, I know financial aid is super fun and exciting. It's always fun to talk about budgeting and money and numbers, right? We love it in our office. Not many students do. It's something that you kind of want to avoid and just hope that your parents are taking care of it, right? So, but there will be a time that if your parents aren't taking care of it right now, you eventually will have to do it on your own, and now is really the time to do it. All right, so we're going to pull up our
first round,
game
Jeopardy round.
here. And we're not going to actually, well, I guess we could actually split in 3 groups right here. So we'll start with this group over here, and do you want to choose do you want to go ahead and choose your points and your theme that you want to go for?
Scholarships, 50.
Scholarships 50. Let's see how smart you guys are. All right, so this is, do you guys know how to play Jeopardy? I haven't brought this up for a while. I have to remember. Okay, so what you have to answer it in a question. So, does anybody know? Yeah. What is the hyperlink for international scholarships? Very good. So this is the link where you would apply for an international scholarship. Way to go. Good job, team. Okay, go ahead and choose another category and yeah, anyone can answer. Yep, so raise your hands. I usually bring in our peer mentors to help run this game because, I don't know.
50 points.
50 points? Yes. Yeah, you want under credit? Wow, you guys are just going to go big. Okay.
What is bad credit?
Yep, so those are the consequences of bad credit. So, did you know that right now, I mean, if you have a student loan and you choose not to pay it back in 2 years when you graduate or 4 years when you graduate, you go in default for that credit loan or for that student loan. You know, if you're not making those payments or you get a credit card right now and you max it out going on that shopping spree that, you know, I love to shop. I saw college roommates do that. And then you just disregard your credit card balance. Yeah, eventually it could damage your credit and you wouldn't be able to buy a car or a home. All right, so go ahead. Choose.
Loans. 50.
Okay, student is required to begin making loan payments after this time. Holy, all right. What?
I think it's like 6 months after graduation.
Yes, it is. Oh, we had it up here. She said it doesn't count.
Isn't that what the grace period is?
Yeah.
So,
6 months.
Yes, so grace period. So okay, here's a key though. I want you guys to listen to this. So the grace period, if you stop attending school, let's say that you decided right now you get your midterm grades and you decide to just walk right out of school and you're just dropping all of your classes and you're done with school. You didn't like your experience. What happens with that student loan? What happens with that 35, it's $1,750, your first semester of loan money. What would happen with that? Do you get to go, hey, you know what? I hated school. I hated it so bad. I am not paying this loan back. I didn't get a single number of credits at midterm. I earned an F, so I'm out of here. What's going to happen? In 6 months, you will be required to pay that loan back. So if you stop attending school or if you graduate after your grace period, that would be 6 months. Then you would start repaying your loan. All right, so we're still in the middle section. I'm keeping my eyes open. Go ahead and choose a category again.
Federal aid.
Federal aid for 50. Okay. So, must be completed if a student earns all Fs or complete withdrawals from school. Who knows what this is?
I've seen it.
This one is a tough one, but it's one that I want to make sure you guys know the answer to. No. Everybody's. What is a withdrawal form? Okay, so close. This is a federal regulation, so listen carefully. If you have a Pell Grant or student loans, you might decide, we'll use our midterm example. So at midterms, you're earning all Fs. You just don't know how you're going to pull yourself out. You're not going to ask anybody any questions, but you know what? You think you're just going to slide through, and you know, your Pell Grant's already paid your balance. You're able to, your student loan covered your food and everything. So at the end of the semester, my office gets a report. And if I see that a student, if I see that you earned all Fs, or that you've withdrawn from school, our office actually has to calculate the days that you actually earned that Pell Grant. So when we say a Pell Grant is free money, it is free money as long as you earn that 2.0 and complete the semester. But if we find that you've earned all Fs, or that you've stopped attending school, or you decided to withdraw during the middle of the semester, we calculate that and we send you a bill, and you have to pay back that Pell Grant that we awarded. So it's very important to understand that. And we understand that students, that you may earn an F. I mean, you may actually earn an F, and that's fine. We verify to see if you actually earn the F, and that's by looking and verifying that you've completed your assignments, and then we verify the last day that you attended your class. So we definitely want to educate you about this, and that's why it was a 50-point question, because it happens and students don't necessarily realize that that could happen. All right, let's let this group over here. Okay, this is where you can see if you're still eligible for your scholarships and aid. Talk to that. So what is what? What was your answer? Very good. Okay, so that's the starting point. Have you guys been into Mustang Cruiser? So we go into Mustang Cruiser. You got it right. But there's a few more steps. So once you get into Mustang Cruiser, there's a link, and it's called, starts with a W. Does anybody know what it's called? Sorry. Web Advisor. But then once you get to Web Advisor, does it just pop up in Web Advisor? Then you got to go to financial aid, right? Okay. And then you can see, but it's a bit tricky, because not only do you have to go into Web Advisor, and a lot of students go, hey, I accepted my aid, it's there, you didn't tell me. I actually do send out emails if you're unsatisfactory for federal aid. But you also have to drill in. So once you look at your aid, you also have to look into your financial aid, your account balance. And right there it will tell you if you're eligible for aid and if you can accept it. So once again, if you have questions navigating the system, please come into Mustang Central. Are you keeping track of the time? All right, so over here, you guys go ahead and select the category.
This is 40 point X. Which one?
40-point sacks. Financial aid is adjusted after this date.
September. August.
Very good. Okay, let's go ahead and give them the answer.
Yeah, 26.
So, what is the last day to add a class or a census date? This is important because students sometimes get confused, because we may have awarded you a scholarship, especially Hathaway, and if you're not registered in the correct number of college level courses for the Hathaway, we adjust your Hathaway Scholarship. So at census, we see how many courses you're enrolled in, and we adjust your scholarships based on that. So it's the last day after you drop a class. And that's important. Who here is receiving Hathaway? Hathaway is a bit tricky, and it's best to kind of go on their site. They talk about their requirements, but if you are receiving Hathaway, you need to complete 12 college level credits each semester, or a total of 24 throughout the whole year. So that's another thing that you should follow up with our office, and we can advise you to make sure that you're on track with your Hathaway completion. If you're taking a course that's a 900 level class, is that a college level class? No, it's not. Okay? So remember that. The college level courses are 1,000 and above. All right, so let's come back over here. I keep having to pick a category.
Scholarships 40.
Scholarships 40. Okay. Full-time students must complete 24 college level credits and earn a 2.25 or a 2.25 GPA. I just gave you that answer, I believe. Go ahead.
What is the Hathaway Scholarship?
So, yes, what is satisfactory academic progress for Hathaway? Way to go. Woohoo. Okay. Go ahead and pick a category in it.
Federal aid.
Okay, a review of your grades and progress of completion.
Blackboard?
Not Blackboard, but that's where you can find it. What? That's correct. That's where you can look at your grades and progress. So that is a correct answer. But the answer that we're looking for in financial aid terms is what is satisfactory academic progress? So at the end of the semester, we review your satisfactory academic progress to make sure that you're eligible for your scholarships the next semester. And so that is where it's important to check your email. If you're receiving federal aid, you'll get an email letting you know if you're on a warning status or if you're unsatisfactory. Okay. All right. Go ahead and pick a category for me.
Student loans.
Okay, this is where you go to find out who is your loan servicer. All right, and do you want to go ahead and talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I did my presentation, I mentioned that I have the information. I didn't really tell you which site I go on. But, okay, there are a couple of sites. Now, this one here is NSLDS, is probably the best site you can go on. And you log in with your password and find your information. It's right there.
So if you take out a student loan anytime during your academic career, this is where you would find out who your servicer is. We oftentimes have students that take out their maximum student loans and then end up, after they've created a budget, realize and they've paid off all of their tuition and their charges and their housing, have discovered they didn't need to borrow as much. So a student can go on to NSLDS, connect with their loan servicer, and either start making interest payments, which we do encourage that if you are taking out an unsubsidized loan, or you can make that additional, the refund check that we send you if you have $500 that you don't need, you can make a payment directly back to your student loan, which we encourage because if you're receiving unsubsidized loans, you're accruing interest on interest. And so those loan balances can really grow to be quite large before you know it. You can always go to studentloans.gov and calculate your payments and figure out what your repayment plans are at any time. Okay, so let's go ahead over here in the corner. How about someone wearing red? Choose a category. 4 of you. Someone shout out a
40.
Okay, where you can request a free annual credit report. Creditkarma.com. Is that the answer? So what is annualcreditreport.com? Yeah. So that would be where you could get a free credit report. Okay, all right. So we are all done. Dang.